The Mr. Men and Little Misses. Originated by Roger Hargreaves. Little Miss Sunshine. Little Miss Sunshine wakes up cheery every morning with a song in her heart and a smile on her face, and co-hosts a popular morning talk show with Mr. Happy. Mr. Happy. Everything is just wonderful to Mr. Happy. Always with a smile on his face, a hungry lion could attack, and Mr. Happy would still find the positive in the situation. Mr. Bump. Mr. Bump is the most accident-prone man in DillyDale, who buys bandages in bulk and is an emergency room regular, and lives next door to his sister, Little Miss Whoops. Little Miss Daredevil. She's sporty, fearless, and often a menace to the safety of DillyDale. When Little Miss Daredevil takes a risk, she rarely does it without dragging her friends along with her. Mr. Grumpy. Mr. Grumpy is always grumbling, complaining, or muttering, and often finds himself involved in jobs better suited to a happier chap, which just makes him grumpier. Mr. Strong. Mr. Strong is a sweet and kind muscle man who is always willing to lend his super strength to help those in need, and has nicknames for his favourite arm muscles. Mr. Lazy. Mr. Lazy has a collection of gadgets that are made to make his life as easy and lazy as possible, mainly from the comfort of his favourite place, the couch. Little Miss Scary. Little Miss Scary takes great pleasure in scaring the innocent folk of DillyDale, and spends much of her time creating spooky experiments that never seem to end well. Mr. Scatterbrain. Mr. Scatterbrain can't have a normal conversation. His mind races in 1,000 confusing directions, and he always remembers his tasks a little too late. Mr. Tall. With his deep, deep voice from way up above, this gentle giant is so sweet and lovable you'll want to give him a big cuddle. If only you could reach that high. Mr. Messy. From his house to his hair, Mr. Messy's life is an unorganized, messy muddle. But Mr. Messy doesn't think that he is messy. He just thinks everyone else in DillyDale is far too tidy. Mr. Nosy. Mr. Nosy is a lovable lump who innocently pokes his nose into other people's business, in the nicest way possible, and his BFF, best friend forever, is Mr. Small. Mr. Small. Mr. Small is so teeny tiny he is often overlooked, but he has a big booming voice and always offers a kind word or tip of his very tall top hat to passing strangers. Little Miss Chatterbox. Little Miss Chatterbox loves to talk and talk. She believes she's an expert on everything and is convinced that everyone in DillyDale wants to hear about it, even if they don't. Mr. Nervous. Oh, poor Mr. Nervous. He's a shaky ball of nerves who spends his day worrying his worst fears will come true, because, unfortunately for him, they usually do. Mr. Quiet. Mr. Quiet likes things peaceful and pleasant on the ears, but finds himself in the middle of sticky situations that ideally require him to shout his way out of, if only he could. Little Miss Helpful. Little Miss Helpful always wants to help. She's always first on the scene to start the problem solving. However, her problem solving usually creates more problems than it solves. Mr. Fussy. Mr. Fussy is the fussiest person in DillyDale, but unfortunately he expects everyone to follow in his oh-so-perfect footsteps, and is left disappointed when they don't. Mr. Bounce. While being able to bounce about looks like a lot of fun, not being able to keep 2 feet on the ground often causes Mr. Bounce all sorts of problems. Mr. Stubborn. Mr. Stubborn does not like listening to other people's opinion or suggestions. He insists on doing things his way or no way, and is far too stubborn to ever admit he's wrong. Mr. Rude. While most people choose their words carefully, not wanting to offend others, Mr. Rude is unable to hold anything back, including his many insults. Little Miss Giggles. With the most infectious laugh in DillyDale, Little Miss Giggles would find a pea on a plate funny, and finds herself innocently lolling at the most inappropriate times. Little Miss Whoops. Watch out if the careless and clumsy Little Miss Whoops comes your way. She loves to help, but is a walking disaster who's unaware of the chaos she leaves in her path. Mr. Noisy. Mr. Noisy can't do anything quietly. His walk is a stomp. His talking voice more resembles a footy match shout, and his drum playing could wake a hibernating grizzly bear. Little Miss Magic. She pops up in places with a magical poof. With a wave of her wand and a rhyming spell, this little Mrs. Magic often turns into mishaps. Little Miss Bossy. Whoa! If you don't like being told what to do, then back away slowly when Little Miss Bossy is about. And don't ever offer her a no for an answer. She won't take it. Mr. Funny. Mr. Funny does not speak. The clown about town expresses his comedic conduct in silence. Oh, except for the handheld horn he communicates with. Honk! Little Miss Curious. Definition of curious: desirous of learning or knowing. Inquisitive. Yep, that paints the perfect picture of this constant question-asking little miss. Little Miss Calamity. A proverbial black cloud of misfortune hangs over little Miss Calamity, which she takes in her stride. Just when it looks like things are starting to go her way, another terrible disaster befalls her. Oddly, she is always surprised by the calamity despite obvious warning signs. Little Miss Naughty. Always playful and never mean, Little Miss Naughty is DillyDale's #1 prankster and loves playing tricks on her favourite target, Mr. Nervous. Mr. Tickle. If someone is feeling sad, if someone is feeling mad, if somebody is feeling bad, then that somebody needs a tickle. And who better to do it than Mr. Tickle? Thank you for listening.